Long before bullets shaped empires, gold did. Beneath the marble halls of kings and bankers, nations waged silent wars, battles fought not with soldiers, but with vaults, ships, and promises. Every ounce of gold was a weapon, every reserve a fortress. In these invisible wars, victory meant survival, defeat meant poverty. The age of cannons faded, and the age of currency began. Subscribe to uncover how gold, not armies, defined the fate of nations. Spain's galleons once ruled the seas, overflowing with New World gold. Yet each voyage brought more than riches. It brought inflation, corruption, and the slow decay of an empire that mistook treasure for strength. Gold made Spain rich, but not wise. Across the oceans, other powers learned. Whoever controls gold controls destiny, but whoever worships it falls to greed. By the 19th century, Britain turned gold into empire. The pound sterling, backed by gold, ruled trade routes from India to the Americas. The city of London was not a battlefield, but a command post. Bankers, not generals, issued orders. While others fought for land, Britain fought for liquidity, and gold obeyed those who treated it not as metal, but as math. Across the Atlantic, America learned fast. With its vast lands and restless ambition, the United States saw gold as both a promise and a prison. California's gold rush had shown the dream. The Civil War showed the cost. By the century's end, America no longer mined just gold, it mined confidence. A new empire was being forged, not in ore, but in credit. In 1870, nations made a pact. Gold would be truth. Every paper note would promise redemption in metal, every economy chained to scarcity. It was elegant and merciless. Gold rewarded discipline, but punished mercy. For the first time in history, money was law, and the law was cold. Under the gold standard, trust became the world's most precious metal. Trains, telegraphs, and treaties spread its discipline across continents. A nation could not cheat gold without losing face. Bankers became priests. Vaults became cathedrals. Money was no longer just wealth. It was morality, measured in ounces. But faith has a cost. By the early 20th century, economies grew faster than the gold that anchored them. Wars loomed, debts swelled, and the sacred balance began to crack. The same metal that once promised peace now chained nations to misery. Beneath the calm surface, tremors of collapse began. When World War I erupted, gold became the first casualty. Nations suspended redemption. Printing presses roared. The hidden war turned visible. Trenches were filled with men, not coins. By 1918, gold's authority had shattered. The world learned that metal cannot bury grief, and debt cannot buy peace. After the guns fell silent, nations faced a new front: debt. Reparations, inflation, and speculation devoured Europe. Gold, once the measure of value, became a symbol of loss. Only America, with vaults full and faith intact, stood tall. The dollar was rising, not by conquest, but by credibility. The 1920s crowned America the new steward of gold. Wall Street glittered brighter than any throne room. Yet behind the champagne and ticker tapes, the seeds of another collapse were sown. Nations had stopped fighting with guns, but they had learned to weaponize belief. The real war was only beginning. In 1929, the world discovered that gold could not save greed. Wall Street's towers, built on faith and leverage, trembled as panic swept through ticker machines. Banks failed, wages vanished, and men lined up with empty hands. The golden age ended not with gunfire, but with silence, the silence of disbelief. As trust collapsed, citizens rushed to hoard gold, believing metal could guard them from misery. But hoarding became a new war, one between the people and their government. Vaults emptied, banks bled, and nations realized, when everyone demands redemption, no system survives. In 1933, President Franklin Roosevelt did what no American leader had dared. He confiscated gold. Citizens were ordered to surrender their coins and trust paper again. Freedom bowed to stability. It was not tyranny, it was triage. For the first time, America's strength lay not in metal, but in managed belief. With gold locked away, the dollar rose from restraint. The printing press, once a tool of panic, became a symbol of recovery. Roads, dams, and dreams were built on ink. The hidden war had shifted fronts, from vaults to printing rooms. America had learned that trust could be manufactured, just like steel. Across the Atlantic, Europe remained scarred. Nations clung to gold like relics of lost pride. Britain devalued, France panicked, Germany printed. The old world had fought too many wars, spent too much faith. The gold they worshipped had become their cage. Even before the war was won, thinkers dreamed of a world without chaos, a system where gold would whisper, but the dollar would command. Economists and generals alike saw the truth. Whoever controlled the world's gold would control its peace. The blueprint for bread on woods was being drawn in secret. World War II was fought with bullets, but won with balance sheets. America lent, supplied, and financed freedom itself. Every tank, every ration, every victory was backed by dollars, not gold. By 1945, U.S. vaults held 2/3 of the world's gold. The hidden war had a clear victor. In 1944, in a quiet New Hampshire lodge, the victors met. They forged a new order. The dollar would be as good as gold, and the world would obey it. The US became the banker of civilization. Every nation's prosperity would now orbit around one currency, one promise, one empire of trust. The new system gleamed with order, fixed rates, full vaults, steady growth. But beneath that calm, the same old tension simmered. Gold was finite, but ambition was infinite. The world believed it had conquered chaos. In truth, it had only buried it under paper. The 1950s and 60s were an age of faith. The dollar was worshipped, gold forgotten. Nations built their futures on US credit, businessmen toasted the end of crises. Yet, far beneath the glitter, the old metal still waited, silent, heavy, incorruptible, reminding the world that belief too has a limit. By the late 1960s, America's vaults began to empty. Wars in Vietnam and welfare at home drained reserves faster than gold could replenish. Foreign nations, led by France, demanded redemption in metal. Planes flew from New York to Paris, filled not with passengers but with gold bricks. The empire of trust began to sweat. President Charles de Gaulle called America's bluff. "We will take our gold," he declared, accusing Washington of exporting paper for real wealth. It was a diplomatic duel, elegant but deadly. France received its gold, but the gesture exposed the fragility of the dollar's throne. Even allies no longer believed the promise. By 1971, the numbers no longer lied. America had promised more gold than it possessed. President Richard Nixon faced an impossible choice: protect the dollar or protect the illusion. In the end, he chose survival. The decision would rewrite the modern world. On live television, Nixon stunned the world. "I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold." With one sentence, centuries of monetary law vanished. The gold standard, once sacred, was dead. The hidden war had entered its most audacious phase, faith without backing. Allies gasped, markets froze, and history turned. Some called it theft, others called it liberation. Gold lost its crown overnight, yet the dollar soared. The new weapon was not metal, but belief, enforced by America's economy, its military, and its promise of prosperity. The term fiat means "let it be done," and so it was. Money was no longer bound to gold, but to government decree. Nations rejoiced. They could print, borrow, and spend at will. The invisible war had a new weapon, infinite paper. Freedom had never felt so powerful or so fragile. But belief needs anchors. In 1974, America found one: oil. A secret pact with Saudi Arabia ensured that every barrel sold would be priced in dollars. The world's thirst for energy became a thirst for US currency. Gold was gone. Black gold had taken its place. By mid-decade, exchange rates were set free. Currencies danced, markets soared, and speculation became an art. The world had left stability for volatility and called it progress. Every nation became both player and prey in a game without gold. Though forgotten by markets, gold did not die. It retreated into vaults and memories, a relic of restraint in an age of excess. Each financial crisis that followed would whisper its name. For even in exile, gold remained what it had always been: the conscience of money. The world entered a new era, rich, fast, unstable. Money became data, belief became leverage. Nations no longer fought for gold, they fought for confidence. The war had not ended, it had simply gone digital. Subscribe to uncover how the next battles for trust, from inflation to crypto, continue this hidden war of gold. The 1970s became the decade of price and panic. Without gold's leash, money multiplied faster than goods. Inflation devoured savings, and faith wavered. What had once been a stable promise became a daily question: what is a dollar worth if it buys less tomorrow? In 1979, Paul Volcker took the Federal Reserve's helm like a general in crisis. He waged war on inflation with interest rates above 20%. Factories fell silent, homes were lost, but trust was restored. America had replaced the gold standard with a new religion: central bank credibility. The 1980s crowned Japan as a rising financial sun. Its markets glittered with speculation and excess. Real estate, not gold, became the new metal of faith. But like every empire of optimism, it too would burst. Wealth built on belief is still a bubble, only shinier. While the world celebrated credit, gold waited. Central banks, once sellers, turned buyers again. Quietly, they rebuilt their reserves, as if preparing for a storm. The lesson had never changed. Trust drifts, but gravity remains metal. As computers entered the financial bloodstream, money shed its last physical skin. Dollars became pixels, banks became networks, and transactions became invisible. Humanity had created the purest form of faith: code. The war for control moved from vaults to servers. The internet promised freedom, and money followed. Tech stocks soared on dreams, not earnings. When the bubble burst in 2000, investors were reminded: belief is still belief, no matter the screen. Gold rose quietly as websites vanished. When Wall Street collapsed again, the cycle was complete. The same arrogance that dethroned gold had built a palace of debt. Banks begged, governments printed, and faith trembled. The world learned, yet again, that trust, not currency, is the foundation of wealth. Out of that collapse came rebellion, a white paper signed by Satoshi Nakamoto, digital gold for a digital age. Bitcoin was not backed by nations, but by math. It promised freedom from printing, trust without intermediaries, and value born of code. The hidden war had a new weapon. Governments watched the rise of Bitcoin with suspicion and envy. Soon, they crafted their own digital currencies, promising speed, safety, and control. The very institutions Bitcoin sought to escape were reinventing themselves. The war had gone full circle, freedom versus authority, again. Today, gold lives not in vaults, but in memory, the moral shadow of finance. Every crisis, every innovation, every digital dream still echoes its weight. The hidden war never ends, it only evolves. Nations still fight without guns, and the prize remains the same: belief. In the 21st century, America discovered a new kind of power, the ability to freeze wealth with a keystroke. Sanctions replaced armies. A nation could be cut off from dollars, trade, and trust overnight. The world learned that the true empire wasn't built on land, but on ledgers. When Russia's reserves were frozen in 2022, the world gasped. Hundreds of billions vanished, not stolen, but locked. For Moscow, it was the ultimate betrayal. The West had weaponized the monetary system. In response, the Kremlin turned to the oldest ally it knew: gold. While the West printed, China accumulated. For decades, Beijing quietly built its vaults, diversifying away from dollars. Each gold shipment was a move on the grand chessboard of power. China didn't need to challenge America with weapons. It could do so with reserves. As nations like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa joined hands, a new vision emerged: a currency backed by commodities, not promises. Gold, oil, and grain, the real wealth of Earth, could replace the paper of empires. The old metal was whispering again. For the United States, the dollar's dominance was both blessing and burden. Every sanction, every bailout, every war spent its credibility, yet without the dollar, the empire itself could not stand. The question haunted Washington: how long can faith replace substance? In an age of code and credit, something strange happened. People began craving the physical again. Gold, land, energy, assets one could touch. The pandemic reminded the world that paper promises vanish when borders close. Reality, like gold, cannot be printed. From Turkey to India, from Singapore to Poland, central banks raced to accumulate gold. Officially, it was diversification. In truth, it was preparation. The global order was shifting, and nations were fortifying their balance sheets like fortresses. Meanwhile, Silicon Valley dreamed of pure digital finance, stablecoins, CBDCs, blockchain governance. Yet for all its innovation, it still sought a metaphor from the past: digital gold. Even the future, it seemed, could not escape history's gravity. This time, the front lines are invisible, drawn across payment systems and clearing networks. SWIFT, SIPS, Fedwire, these are the new trenches. Nations build alternatives not to trade, but to survive the next economic strike. The hidden war of gold has gone global once more. Every century, gold returns, not for greed, but for memory. It reminds humanity of restraint, of consequence, of truth. Empires rise by abandoning it, and return to it in regret. The hidden war endures because its battlefield is not the market, but the human heart. Money is not metal, nor paper, nor code. It is belief, a shared story that only lives if we repeat it. Every empire that forgets this truth eventually prints too much, promises too much, and trusts too little. The hidden war is not fought in markets, but in minds. As debt soars and printing accelerates, whispers of gold echo once more, not as currency, but as conscience. Investors, governments, and even young traders sense it. Wealth without limits is not freedom, it is addiction. Gold's silence speaks louder than every digital promise. From Rome to Britain, from America to whoever comes next, history repeats one simple rule: power lasts only as long as people believe in the money behind it. When belief breaks, no army, no speech, no law can hold it together. Gold waits patiently for that moment. Every financial system reflects a moral system. Easy money rewards impatience. Sound money rewards discipline. The hidden war is really a test of character between greed and grace, illusion and integrity. The victor is never permanent, but always human. Young minds now inherit a world of invisible wealth. Digital, infinite, unanchored. They must decide whether freedom without foundation is real freedom at all. In every smartphone and blockchain wallet, the ancient question of gold lives again. What makes value true? A reckoning always comes. When debts outweigh dreams and inflation mocks progress, societies rediscover humility. The return to discipline is not regression. It is renewal. Gold does not return to punish. It returns to remind. Whether through crypto, gold, or new systems yet unimagined, the battle for honest money continues. The forms will change, but the essence remains. Trust must be earned, not printed. The next currency will not be built by machines, but by morals. In hidden vaults and forgotten mines, gold still gleams, not as treasure, but as memory. It waits for the next age of arrogance to collapse under its own weight. Empires forget, but gold remembers. The war of gold was never about wealth, it was about truth. Each era disguises its battles with new names, inflation, digitalization, equality, yet beneath them all, the same struggle endures between reality and illusion, permanence and promise. When nations fight without guns, they fight with trust, and trust, once broken, takes generations to rebuild. Gold's message endures. Real value is never printed. It is earned, guarded, and remembered. The hidden war continues, not in markets, but in our choices. Subscribe to Finance Through History, where every empire, every crisis, and every coin reveals the moral price of money.